Earlier this year, Sports Interactive announced that Football Manager 2025, which had already been delayed a couple of times, was going to be cancelled and we were never going to get to play the game we'd all been waiting for. We've now had a couple of months to let the dust settle a bit, and I think I've now stopped crying long enough to be able to try and offer up a balanced discussion about whether it was the best thing they could have done for the Football Manager franchise or an absolute betrayal of all of the trust that we've built up with them over the last 30 years. Yes, it still stings me personally as a Football Manager content creator, but I'm going to try my best to offer both sides of the argument, and whether you agree or disagree with any of the things that I'm about to say, feel free to use the comment section to tell me all about it, because any engagement is good engagement. And we're going to start things off by looking at the potential positives that could come out of this cancellation. And this is definitely the part of the video that has led to it taking a couple of months to make, because my wallet is still stinging from the impact of all of this. So yeah, trying to calm down enough to draw the positives out of it has been a process of growth and personal development. But here we go. It is refreshing to see a game developer, a game publisher, a business in general in 2025 put quality ahead of profit. And there's no questioning that's what Sports Interactive and Sega have done in this situation, because they very easily could have just released the game in whatever state that it was in. They'd have sold millions of copies. They'd have made tens of millions of pounds. The shareholders would have been super duper happy, and they would have probably been putting fires out all year. But there's no denying they've left tens of millions of pounds on the table by not releasing a game. And to use their own language, the reason for it was that Football Manager 2025 was too far away from the standards that we as fans deserve. And that's got to be admired, because I don't know how many companies take that decision, especially companies who are a one game studio who rely entirely on the money that comes in from that one game that they make, and have effectively cut off their income from October, November 2023 when FM24 came out, and haven't really made any money since. They clearly have very supportive business partners in the shape of Sega, and that is a positive. The demonstration of that, the strength of that relationship, and the commitment that Sports Interactive have to actually release a good game. That's a good thing. We all want a good game. As much as we want a game, we want a good game. And they do seem like they're committed to delivering that. And that's a really good thing. Cancelling the game outright after they'd already delayed it also means that they've avoided that potential situation they were going to be in, where fans would have to buy 2 copies of the game in a year, 2 copies of the game in 6 months. If it had released in March, what would that have meant for the release window for FM26? Would that still come out October, November time? If so, that's 2 full price games 6 months apart. How different would the games have been? Can we really expect people to pay full price twice in 6 months? Would they have had to have delayed the launch for FM26 to reflect that? And could it have messed up the launch window for years to come by just throwing FM25 out and saying, actually, you know what, we're not going to release this one? They've kind of removed that whole issue. When we eventually do get to FM26, which I'm assuming is what the next entry in the series is going to be called, and we did see in Sega's financial report yesterday, they do have a commitment to the next game in the Football Manager franchise. Interestingly, they didn't call it FM26 in that, but whenever it comes out, I think we can probably assume it's going to be in its normal release window, October, November time this year. It's going to be its normal price. And by that point, we won't have bought a game for 2 years from them. So rather than giving us a situation where we have to buy twice in 6 months, they basically gave us a year off, having to part with our 35, 40 quid. So that's nice. Another positive that I think's come out of it, that it is forcing creators like me, and obviously all of these other rascals out there as well making Football Manager content, to be a little bit more creative and do things a little differently to how they've done it before. I am very guilty of relying on new release hype every year and basically riding that wave to release the same kind of videos year on year on year on year, and was getting away with it until those rascals took my new release window away. And now it's making us think outside the box a little bit. You're seeing things like the Pentagon Challenge that you wouldn't have seen ordinarily. You're seeing different styles of video, not just from me, but obviously from lots of other creators who are doing things with Football Manager that have never been done before. And that's that kind of creativity you would expect to spill over into future years of the game. I don't think we're going to go back to a status quo situation where people are just releasing let's plays and experiments, and the new game comes out and you get a whole bunch of, what am I doing for my beta save? Let's holiday 100 years into the future. There'll obviously be a bit of that, but there's going to be all this creative new style stuff alongside it as well. Director of football saves, multi-club saves, players acting as players agents. I don't even know how that one works. All these various rebuilds and challenges and competitions. And even outside of content creators, you have all of the creative stuff that's being done with the game. Stuff like the FM tweaks mod that's out there that I'm yet to try myself, but hear all sorts of good things about. People doing creative stuff with databases, with skins. By giving us all extra time with one version of the game, we're all going into that game in much more depth and with much more creativity than has ever been done before. And I think the Football Manager content landscape as a whole, quality wise, is much better now than it's ever been before. And you add a new game in on top of that, and I think we're going to see some really incredible stuff, not just from me, but across the board when FM26 comes out. And I think you're gonna see some records broken. I think we're gonna see million view videos. I think you're gonna see creators with 500,000 subscribers. I think you're gonna see the whole Football Manager brand, certainly from a content perspective, take a huge leap forward to the next level because of the lessons that have been learned during this period of difficulty. And I think to add to that, Sports Interactive have also been able to bank some community goodwill that they definitely could have lost by putting out a full price, half finished game that didn't really work properly. Obviously, the B side to that is it does rely on the new game when it comes out being good and an improvement and worth the money. So we kind of have to assume that's a given. But by not fleecing the audience out of an annual release the way so many of these annual sports franchises do, I think it has created a little bank of goodwill. That I think some of that bank was drained by the delay cancellation, not really saying anything thing. And I think they could do themselves a lot of favors by getting back to that honesty and transparency thing they said they were going to do and then couldn't really do because of all the legal stuff around it. I would certainly like to see Sports Interactive maybe reopen their Twitter account, maybe start offering some teases of communication now if they are confident that we're going to get a game out later this year. And I think they have to be. I think they probably need to start communicating some of that fairly soon, or that goodwill that they have built up by not ripping everybody off does start to drain further and further. And of course, all of that kind of hints at the main positive of them cancelling FM25. And that theoretically should be that when FM26 does hit, it's going to be awesome. They'll have had 2 years to develop it. All of those exciting new things that they were planning on doing for FM25 but couldn't quite get working should work. And having had all that time to develop them should be noticeable improvements. The game should look better, play better, just be better. And hopefully when it does drop, we're all going to be super duper excited about it. And we're going to be playing the best version of Football Manager they've ever released. And that's going to be great. And if you've got any more positives that I'm ignoring because I'm still being clouded by my my own business going down the toilet as a result of it, please feel free to share them down in the comment section below. Because I have a longer list now, which is the negatives of this. Let's get on with that list. Fan disappointment is a huge, obvious first one. Obviously, there's a lot of people who play this game every year and have done for a long, long time. And I would have been disappointed that they weren't able to play it this year. I was disappointed as a fan of the game, never mind as a content creator, just as a fan of Football Manager. I've been playing since Championship Manager 2. It is my favourite game. I've got tens of thousands of hours on this franchise over the years. It's part of the new football season every year. It's part of my annual routine. It's part of my daily routine. and I miss it and I want to play the new game, and I'm disappointed that I haven't been able to yet. And I think from a business perspective for Sports Interactive, it's never good to disappoint your fans, and that's why it's so important that they knock it out of the park with FM26 when it comes. There's also an element of like broken promises, broken expectations within that as well, because there were things we knew were coming to FM25 that we of course now haven't had. Things like women's football, things like the Premier League license. They were things we were expecting to be having 6 months ago. And because that game didn't come out, we didn't get them. But because of other licensing issues, they weren't able to do that update to FM24. So FM24 vanilla out of the box Sports Interactive version is now over a year out of date. I mean, Luton are still in the Premier League when you start a vanilla save on FM24. They've just been relegated to League One. So, you know, it's that lack of an official update does sting. It would have been, and believe me, I understand the licensing reasons why they weren't able to do it, but I think we'd all be feeling a lot more positive and a lot happy if they had have been able to release an annual update, a data update for FM24 that updated the leagues, updated the squad lists, maybe added that Premier League license in and changed nothing else. I think that would have been awesome, and it's a shame they weren't able to do that. I understand that there's licensing complications that make that a big job to do, and it would have been silly to take on a big job when they've already got the big job of making the new game. But I don't know, in an alternate universe, I would have been interested to see how early they knew or how early they thought it was a possibility that the game wouldn't be ready, and if that would have given them enough time to do an update on the previous one and get those licensing issues sorted. And I mean, you don't necessarily need to charge full price for it. They could have done, it would have been lovely to do it for free, but they could have done it like a £10 data update at the start of the season that's now ending with all of those things added in. And I don't think, obviously they've had a few people moan about it, but I think if they'd have framed it as, look, the new game's not going to be ready, that's not going to come out for another year, pay a tenner, you get FM25 asterisk, which is FM24, but polished up. And by polished up, I just mean database updated, and we've thrown the Premier League license in as well because we've bought it, so we may as well use it. And there you go. Nothing else has changed. That's why it's only a tenner. I think that would have been awesome, and it's a shame they weren't able to do that. And that does link into obviously a lot of the communication issues as well. We don't really know why they didn't do that. It's kind of caught behind legalese. When it comes to the original cancellation announcement, obviously we had the announcement that the new game was coming. They opened pre-orders a week later. They delayed the game by 6 months. That was weird. Is that a case of you've got a marketing team not in communication with the development team? Is that a case of a decision being made super duper late and them changing their minds? We don't know because it's not really been communicated to us. And then, of course, once it was delayed, we were told we'd find out by the end of January what was happening. And the end of January came and went, and it was early February that they came out and cancelled the game. And again, it was done at like 2 a.m. because, and I understand there was legal reasons for it. It had to be announced by Sega to their shareholders. That had to be the first place it happened. They had to wait for their financial report to go out. I get all that, but it does mean that those lines of communication between Sports Interactive and their fans, take Sega and legal stuff out of the equation. Sports Interactive, the Football Manager account, they're not tweeting anymore. They're not telling us anything. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if there's going to be a new game. We don't know what that new game is going to be called. We don't know when it's going to come out. We don't know why there wasn't a data update. We don't know why the game was delayed. We don't know what parts weren't working. We don't know if any of the features that they'd already said they were going to take out, like international football, like fantasy draft, we don't know if the extra year means some of that can go back in. We don't know anything because they're not communicating with us. And that, more than anything, is the biggest problem of all of it. And it's not just they're not communicating with the wider public. As a content creator who's worked quite closely with them over the years, they're not communicating with us either. We don't know any more than you know. I didn't know the cancellation announcement was coming. I was in a hotel about to get on a cruise ship, if you remember, when I woke up the morning I was due to board my cruise to a phone that was full of people tweeting at me saying they announced it was cancelled overnight. And I had to sit there in a hotel room making a video explaining what had gone on when I didn't. I mean, there's no communication at all. And that is a big worry and sets a worrying precedent for the future as well, because over the last 3 or 4 years, we'd actually built up, certainly as a developer content creator relationship, there were actually some quite good lines of communication, and they're gone. And I hope they come back. Or if nothing else, I hope they start communicating with anyone again at any point. It doesn't even have to be through content creators. Just tell the world the new game's called FM26. It's going to come out in October. If they tweeted that today, I'd be delighted because it's some information. Another negative, of course, is it does break the habit. It breaks the annual release cycle. They've released every year since, 1994, 1995, pretty much without fail. There's been a couple of games within there that have been late, but they've all come out eventually. But now you've had a year where a game hasn't been released, and there are people out there who only play Football Manager and might have just kind of fallen out of the habit of doing it because there wasn't a new game, and those players might not come back. And that could be a problem for Sports Interactive, for Sega. I don't know if it's going to be. I'd like to think with enough hype, with enough communication, with enough marketing, people might get excited enough about a new look game that looks awesome to counteract that. But if they continue to stay quiet, and if the game isn't great, I think you add that on to the people who've fallen out of the habit of playing it, and you do start to see a snowballing effect problem. And then, of course, you've got the issue of all the conspiracy theory meatheads who are blaming it all on women's football being added to the game and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I didn't need to know they existed, but now I do. So that's a negative that's come out of this. Great. Football Manager's got its own share of meatheads. Lucky us. And that's kind of where I'm at with it all. I can now see both sides of the argument. I do get where Sports Interactive are coming from. They want to release a quality game. As gamers, we want a quality, polished game. We want it to work. We don't want it to be bug riddled. But at the same time, as a fan, it is so frustrating that it was cancelled the way it was after delays without us really being told what was going on. And the fact that we're still sat here now months later and we still don't know any more than we knew that morning that it was cancelled overnight. We haven't had any information since then. We don't know. We still don't know if a new one is coming. The longer that goes on, the longer the fan frustration in general becomes, and the harder it becomes to win those people back round and get them back onto the franchise. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Let's get a conversation going. I'm happy to do a part 2 to this video in a week or two based on your responses down in the comments over on Discord, and kind of give some of your viewpoints, either positive or negative or balanced, or however you're feeling about it. I want to know your thoughts because it will help me continue to clarify mine, because it's very difficult for me as a content creator whose livelihood is based on this video game to separate the I need the views from the gamer side of things. And first and foremost, I am a Football Manager gamer. I love the game. I have done long before I ever made content on it. And I just want the game to be good. This guy over here just wants the game to be good. This guy over here wants to be able to pay his rent. But this guy over here just wants the game to be good. And hopefully it'll be good. And hopefully it'll be out soon. And hopefully we'll get some news soon. But communicate with us. This is just another video where I'm asking for them to tell us something. Anything, please tell us something. But I guess the thumbnail and title did pose a question. So let's use the comments section to do a quick survey of the answer. Give us a thumbs up in the comments if you think quality first is the way forward. It's a good thing. You're glad it was cancelled and you're hopeful for the future. And give us a thumbs down if you think it was a betrayal of fans. It's a disaster. It's not good. They should have got something out anyway. And we'll tally them up. And we'll see whether thumbs up or thumbs down wins, because that'll be good for the algorithm too. But if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on it for me. That's different to the other thumbs up we were talking about before. Let me know in the comments if there's more like conversational, opinion-based videos you'd like to see from me. I really enjoy making this kind of video. Hopefully you enjoy watching them. I'd like to do more of this kind of stuff, so suggesting topics for how we could do it, whether it's here or maybe over on LOLLUJO too. While I'm not able to stream at the moment, we could use that for some conversational, opinion-y pieces. But if you don't like them, tell me you don't like them, and we'll do something else. But subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you very much for watching.